What's up, everybody? We are live for Shed Worship tonight. I'm so ready to get back to normal whenever that might be. I don't know when it'll be. Big updates coming this next Monday, May 4th. The governor's supposed to give us an update on possible phases of getting back to normal. So I know last week I told y'all that I'd have some answers for you concerning church camp, but due to the governor saying, hey, I'm going to come out with some updates on possible phases to reopen the state, we pushed that back to May 4th as well. So next Wednesday, we'll have an update on camp and summer activities. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the lesson. Just to give you a little recap, last week or 2 weeks ago, we started a series on confidence. We talked about having a strong foundation, having a strong foundation, meaning that our faith, our confidence would withstand the trials that were to come. What that looked like was we talked about the three little pigs, if you remembered. Talked about how the three little pigs, one pig built their house out of straw, the other did it out of sticks, and when the big bad wolf came, those houses were blown over, but yet the pig that built his house with bricks, right? The big bad wolf had no power over it. So we talked about how our confidence in God, if we have a strong foundation, will withstand the evils of this world. And then last week we talked about having a identity in Christ, having an identity in Christ and how that strengthens our confidence. So first we have a foundation in our relationship with God, and then we have our identity in Christ. So this week, this will be the final week that we look at confidence. So the first 2 weeks was how do we obtain confidence? How do we grow our confidence? And tonight is going to be how do we put our confidence into motion? How do we put our confidence in action? That's what the C.I.A. stands for in the title. It's not the government agency, so I shouldn't get in trouble for that. But FBI, whatever, if you're watching, I love you. But C.I.A., what I meant in the title is confidence in action. So how do we put our confidence into action? How do we put it into motion? How can we use our confidence? Has there ever been a time in your life when your confidence was tested? Now, over the last 2 weeks, I've shared a difficult time in my life when the church that I attended went through a split. There was fighting amongst the members of the church, amongst the deacons, amongst all the leadership. There was some turmoil, and it caused the church to split. And my confidence in my relationship with God was questioned, was challenged in that moment. How I'd bounce back from it was challenged. What about in other areas of your life? What about in athletics or different things like that? For those who know, I love MMA. I love boxing. I love any kind of contact fighting sport, organized sport. But in MMA, when you train for a fight, when you get ready for a fight, most of your training is based upon who you're fighting against. In MMA, if you are a boxer or a kickboxer, somebody who likes to stand on their feet and fight, but your opponent that you're going to be fighting in a couple months is more of a jiu-jitsu fighter who likes to get the fight to the ground and try and tap you out or try and ground and pound, do wrestling, different things like that, then your focus isn't so much on your strikes, but how to keep the fight from going to the ground. Something called takedown defense, keeping your opponent on their feet. That way you can use your strengths, which is your boxing or your kickboxing, and they won't be able to use their strengths, which is jiu-jitsu and wrestling, as much. Because if you get put to the ground, then all of a sudden you're going against their strengths instead of them going against your strengths. And that's what we do with our confidence in our Christ. That's how we put it into action. First, we have to have a game plan. We have to have preparation towards the enemy. Who's the enemy? Well, sin is the enemy. Satan is the enemy. So if our confidence is going to be in God, we have to know who the enemy is. We have to know what we're going up against. We have to have that game plan. That's why a strong foundation is so important. That is why finding our identity in Christ is so important. So I want to look at a story, and I know I've shared this with Shed students amongst the years. It's probably one of my single most favorite parts of any story in the Bible, with the exception of course, the resurrection and events of Jesus. But we're going to be in Daniel chapter 3. Now, I just want to give a backstory before we read these verses. This is the famous story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Famous story. As soon as I say that, some of y'all might think of a gold statue. Some of y'all might think of a fiery furnace. That's what this story is revolved around. King Nebuchadnezzar was not the greatest king, was not a very nice guy. And some of his workers had problems with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They weren't doing as they were commanded. So they told the king about this, and the king erected a huge golden statue and commanded everybody to worship it. Well, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was followers of God. They believed in God. They worshiped God. They refused to worship this false god, this golden statue. And when King Nebuchadnezzar got word of it, he sent for his guards to go get him. And at this moment, King Nebuchadnezzar is saying, look, I'm going to give you one more chance. This is your final straw. Worship this golden statue, or I'm throwing all three of you in the furnace. I'm going to burn all three of you alive. You will die if you do not worship this golden statue. So this is the part of the story that we find in Daniel chapter 3. And I'm going to start reading in verse 16 because this is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's response to King Nebuchadnezzar telling them, if you do not worship this statue that I've put up, I will kill you. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. Pretty bold statement. If this be so, our God whom we serve, see the confidence that they have right here? Just listen to this verse. If this be so, our God in whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand. Talk about confidence. They had a bold confidence that even if they're threatened with being put in the furnace, that God could save them from that tragedy. That is a bold confidence. But let's continue reading and see what else they say. But if not, so they're saying, listen, God can save us from this circumstance. God can save us from the furnace. But King Nebuchadnezzar, verse 8, but if not, be it known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. Now, this is the most epic, in my personal opinion, story of having confidence, of being courageous. 3 young men standing up for their faith in God, being threatened to be put to death, saying, listen, whatever you have planned for us, our God can deliver us from it. But even if he doesn't deliver us from it, even if we are put to death, we are confident to tell you this: we will not worship your false god. We will not bow to this golden statue. That is what confidence in action looks like. That is what putting your money where your mouth is. That is walking the walk. That is not just talking the talk. That is saying you're a Christian and then living like you're a Christian. That is what God calls us to do, to be strong and courageous, to stand up for our faith, to not just be Christians on Sundays and Wednesdays when it's easier, but when the going gets tough, when we're faced with adversary, that we would stand strong in our faith, that we would stand strong in our confidence. Now look at the rest of this story. Guess what? They were thrown in the furnace, right? God did not take the furnace away. God did not take the heartache away. God did not take the tragedy of being thrown in a fiery furnace away. What did he do? He entered the furnace with them. So listen, friends, listen to this. You're going to go through some stuff in life. You're going to have situations that challenge your confidence in God. Have confidence in knowing that God's not just going to simply take those things away in your life, but God is going to walk with you during those times. God is going to be side by side with you. He's not going to leave you. He's not going to say, you figure it out. You put yourself in this mess. You figure it out on your own. No, that's not what he's going to do. He's going to lead, guide, and direct you through the path of getting through it. He's not going to take it away, but he's going to show you how you can get through it. He's going to show you his strength in your weakness. We see that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was saved from the fiery furnace. That's because God put himself in the furnace with them, not because he took the furnace away. And friends, I want to tell you, you can have this kind of confidence with any temptation that's going on in your life. Excuse me. You can have this kind of confidence with anything going on in your life. Okay? You can answer temptation with this confidence. You can say, alcohol. No matter what control you think you have in my life, my God is bigger. Porn. No matter how many temptations you throw my way, my identity is in Christ, not in what I look at on a computer screen or on my phone. My God is bigger than your temptation. Gossip, lying, stealing, dishonoring your parents. Any temptation that you are faced with, your identity is not in those temptations. Your identity is in Christ, where you have built a strong foundation. Rely on his strength and not on your own. Tell that temptation it has no authority over you. Be like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. When faced with death, their confidence in God showed. So when faced with temptation, what's going to show? Your confidence in God or your weakness to that temptation? Be confident in Christ. Now, I want to talk about some confidence stealers. These are some things that in our lives steal our confidence from God. We might have had a strong foundation. We might have been building up on our identity in God, and these things come in and swoop in and steal our identity. These things steal our confidence. The first one is that we lose our identity in God. And what I mean by that is what we talked about last week. We start to find our identity in different things. We find our identity in our abilities. We find our identity in the things that we own. But what happens, like we talked about last week, is when we find our identity in those things and those things begin to change, suddenly we don't know who we are anymore. We have lost our identity. That's why it's important for us to put our identity in the one who never changes. Excuse me. So, number two, and this is a big one for us. A stealer of confidence is comparison. So often we want to compare ourselves with other people. And can I tell you that goes for pastors too. That goes for preachers, youth pastors. You know, there's a bunch of different youth pastors across this nation. There's a bunch of youth pastors in this state and in this association. And there are some great youth pastors. Some are some of my closest friends. And, for me, it could be easy for me to compare different situations. Or maybe I like something that they did and I'm not able to do it. Or maybe they see something that's going on at the shed that they wish that they could have at their church. And what happens is we get in this deal of comparison, and we're so focused on what other people are doing that we're not realizing the ministry that we're missing out on right in front of us. And that goes for you in the school. That goes for you in the workplace. If you're continuously comparing yourself to your classmates, you're going to miss out on a lot of joy that God has planned for you. If you're constantly comparing yourself maybe to the grades that somebody else is making, maybe you're trying your absolute hardest and somebody else is making better grades than you, it's going to happen. There's going to be people who are smarter than you. There are going to be people who are more athletic than you. The problem is we always compare ourselves to those who can do things better than us. This is what happens when we compare ourselves. We either become insecure in our own standing, in our own confidence, or we become arrogant because we're either comparing ourselves to people who we think are better, or we're comparing ourselves to people that we think are not as good. So we're either going to be insecure or we're going to be arrogant. Comparison is the thief of joy. Comparison will cause you to lose your confidence in God. And the third thing is a know-it-all, right? Have you ever known a know-it-all? Somebody who just feels like they have the answer for everything. They just feel like you can't teach them anything. Listen, if you feel that way, then you have no room to grow in your relationship with God because you already feel like you know everything. And if you have nothing to learn, you have no room to grow. And if you have no room to grow, your confidence in God will dwindle because there is no faith. Because you have gotten to the point where you feel maxed out. So know this, that your confidence in God starts with a strong foundation. It starts to grow into an identity. And then that has to be put into action. So these things that try and creep into your life to take your confidence away does not become victorious. So we looked at 3 different stealers of confidence. I just want to quickly look at some builders, confidence builders. It's not about winning. It's not about winning. It's about serving. Okay? Build your confidence by getting the attention off yourself and onto serving others. Be intentional. Show interest. Okay? People are going to tell when you're faking it. People can tell when you're showing interest, but you have an ulterior motive. Be genuine. Be authentic with each other. Okay? Show interest because you want to, not just because you feel like it's the right thing. Love your neighbor because you want to get to know your neighbor. Okay? Have confidence in God, not because Barry told you to on Shed Live on a Wednesday night. Have your confidence in God because you strive to have a strong relationship with Him. The second one is be patient. Don't pray for patience. Okay, that's my free tip of the day. Do not pray, God, give me patience. Because He's going to put situations in your life that demands patience. If you want to challenge, go ahead. Do it. God's going to challenge you with patience in your life. It is very important that we're not led by our emotions. When we're led by our emotions, all rationality goes out the window. Okay? When we're led by our emotions, we scream at people that we normally wouldn't scream at. We punch things that we normally wouldn't punch. Maybe not somebody, but something close by. We throw tantrums. We get our feelings hurt. Okay? When we're led by our feelings, there's no foundation for confidence. Okay? There's no strong ground. It's more of a wave going up and down constantly because our emotions are never constant. It's just up and down like a wave. Do not be led by your emotions. Be patient. Next one is step out in faith. Don't let your past stand in the way of open doors in front of you. God has a beautiful plan for your life, And no matter what your past looks like, God can use you for the present and for the future. You have to be willing and able to let him use you. It's not about your ability, it's about your availability, okay? And know that nothing in this world has power over God. That fiery furnace did not have power over God. Goliath did not have power over God. David knew that. Those lions did not have power over God. Daniel knew that. Okay? Whatever temptation, whatever struggle you're facing, whatever heartache you're facing, does not have power over God. So often the devil's going to lie to you and say, you cannot overcome this. Just succumb to it. Just admit it and you'll move on. That's wrong. Because the devil knows who has power over those things. The devil knows who God is. The devil knows the power of God. But the devil's going to lie to you constantly about that authority, about that power. Because the devil wants nothing more than to see you suffer, to see you go through pain, and to see you to cause other people to stumble as well. Have a confidence in God that tells the devil, be gone. That tells any temptation, I can overcome you through the strength that I have in God. Our confidence is what's going to keep us moving forward during these times like COVID-19, during the times of the unknown, during any heartache that we face. Confidence does not take the temptation and heartaches away, but confidence pushes us through those things by the strength of God. Okay, guys, I love you. If y'all want to make some comments, if y'all have any questions, shoot them. I think I'm going to, starting next week, make some Google Docs on Thursdays. Just do some family discussion time that y'all can do with your families. I'll post them on Facebook on the Shed page, and then post them on Instagram. I think I can put a link on our YouTube page as well. So, guys, I love you. I will see you. I don't know yet. Let me rephrase that. We're not going to do Zoom at 9:30 in the morning. I'll make a post tomorrow about our time and date for our Zoom hangout. So come and hang out at Zoom, and then I'll drop another Devo Monday. We're gonna start having some guest speakers on our Shed Devo, so you're not just hearing from me. You'll get to see some other people that you haven't gotten to see in a while. So look forward to that. But just know, guys, and when I say guys, that means the girls too. I just say guys in general. Shed students, I love you all. I hope you are having a great time during this COVID-19. I know I can't see you physically. We've hung out a little bit via internet, but I know it's just not the same. So, but hopefully we'll get some good news from the governor, and we'll slowly and safely start moving back into a normal routine. So stay tuned for that, and I love you guys.